Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, that is Caleb, and today we got a lot to talk about. Going through the newest confirmed Nebraska coaches and some of the biggest rumors and breaking down the reported new offensive coordinator, his philosophies and everything else, and how it could fit into Nebraska's future and to what Matt Rhule is trying to do here in Nebraska. So we have a ton to talk about. Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's fun to have the Husker season feel a little extended right now. Lots of news flying at us, coaches' names, research rumors. It's fun there on Twitter and everywhere else. Glad to be a part of it. And I just can't wait to dive into some of these names today. We'll start with some of the confirmed ones, the blueprint of what Matt Rhule's creating here. Evan Cooper, our cornerbacks coach, is confirmed to start off with.
Which is really interesting. I mean, Cooper was back at Baylor for a while, and he did a lot of good stuff there and then went to the NFL with Matt Rhule to Carolina. And so I think it seems like an interesting hire, one that should have enough weight with, the recruits he's going to be talking to, things like that. So inherently, I'm pretty excited about the hire, I think. Those types of hires are really interesting because, how do you feel
There's
about...
definitely going to be a pattern.
Well, how do you feel about, obviously we're going to talk about a few more of them, but the Carolina guys, joining Matt Rhule immediately and getting this band back together in that sense. And it kind of started here with Evan Cooper with the first news. I don't know. Where are you at with that?
I don't know. It's kind of like a catch-22 because, you want to hire, the best coaches, but then these coaches are also going to hire guys that they trust who think that they can work well with and been successful with in the past.
Yeah.
So, instead of just pulling all new guys together, I guess it feels more comfortable and easy to kind of get the ball rolling again with these guys because you already have a relationship. Again, we've just kind of been burnt in the past with some of, I guess it's really all the coaches in general. So I don't think that Nebraska fans should feel too worried about it because, again,
this is what coaches do.
Situations, it's just the pattern of what happens. And I feel fine with it.
The only quote we got from him is his Twitter bio, which says, "The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny."
Hard. That goes hard.
It does.
That Twitter bio. So
it does. So the next coach that has also been confirmed is Corey Campbell, and you've probably seen the picture of Corey Campbell flying around social media. He is jacked, no doubt about it. And
Swole.
You don't want to get into a fist fight with this man because he is going to beat your face in. My goodness, his fists, his biceps are the size of my thighs. It's no doubt about it. It's insane. So you gotta respect.
That's what you want to see.
You gotta respect that exactly. And
that's all the resume I needed.
Right. How much more do you really need out here? As he was working with the Panthers as the assistant strength and conditioning coach. And so again, not similar situation. You're coming to Nebraska following Evan Cooper and Matt Rhule. So overall, I think it's pretty positive, and the players on Twitter seem to be on board with it, to say the least.
And then the other one confirmed is Ed Foley, an assistant special teams coach at Carolina. He served as the tight ends, offensive line, and special teams at Temple for over a decade, and then served as the interim head coach when Rhule left Temple for Baylor. So this was also kind of a
we don't exactly know what his specific role is going to be yet. It's just been basically rumored and nearly confirmed that expected that he'll be here as some sort of special teams assistant in some type of role, whether that's the full-blown special teams coach or some sort of analyst position. So the other one that is heavily rumored and likely to be expected, but nothing confirmed yet, is Terrence Knighton as the defensive line coach. He's a very young coach right now, and he was, again, the Panthers' assistant defensive line coach for the past 2 seasons. Before that was the defensive line coach at Wagner, and previously before that was basically just retired from the NFL, playing with the Jaguars, Broncos, Redskins, and Patriots, and he was a 3rd-round pick back in 2009 from Temple. And so we don't know too much about his coaching style yet and things like that. Obviously, he's been, just as an the assistant D-line coach at the Panthers, but a guy that I think is interesting. And again, you're bringing a lot of this NFL resume to Nebraska, which I think is really interesting.
Again, they're all just kind of so new at the NFL thing and have been, proven in college. They all really kind of carry the same resume. So if we believe in Matt Rhule and what he's going to do here. So you kind of have to trust that his guys will be good too if they've been successful. The biggest position,
by far.
All these guys, yes, by far. One of, the the big three coaches is Marcus Satterfield, the offensive coordinator, has also been reported definitely about a lot of places. He right now is the offensive coordinator with the Gamecocks, and he was fired from the NFL, went to South Carolina for this.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So he's right now the QB coach and the offensive coordinator. And this year's been fun for them, to say the least. They also got a transfer quarterback this last year, Spencer Rattler, and they've had a very crazy 2 weeks, to say the least, beating Tennessee and Clemson, which is a pretty good 2 weeks for any college football team.
So Satterfield has a history with Matt Rhule dating back to the Panthers, even like in 2020, where he was just an assistant offensive line coach. But before that was at Baylor. Before that was at Temple as the offensive coordinator and running backs and quarterbacks coach. So he's been on the trek here with them, which is interesting because he had a hot minute there as the head coach of Tennessee Tech. And that was why they kind of split for a while. And he came back to Baylor with Matt Rhule in 2018 after he was let go from Tennessee Tech. So it's a really interesting situation. I want to get into the nitty gritty of breaking down his offensive philosophy. So where are you at with Satterfield and how he approaches offense at South Carolina?
Pretty much in the shotgun most of the season. They did have one of the worst offensive lines up there with us. So they kind of had to try and figure that out too. It definitely looked a lot similar, where they had a good quarterback who could throw the ball, but definitely had struggles running the ball.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he's been there for 2 years. And so obviously, like, he's had, last year, different quarterbacks. Last year was a myriad of quarterbacks. I think they had 3 guys had 60 or 80 pass attempts, something like that. And then, this year, obviously, you have Spencer Rattler. So it's a very distinct difference in offenses.
They have definitely had their ups and downs throughout the season, and injuries too. They do some fun things though. Like we saw some wildcat formation in these last couple weeks. They've had, 3 tight ends on the field. They're trying to, a lot of what we're trying to do of like, you're trying to figure out ways to block. So you bring in those extra tight ends, rollouts, again, trying to find ways to be creative, or, spreading out, guys 5 wide. Maybe where the pressure's coming from, and that can help your quarterback too. So a lot of similar stuff to what we've seen Nebraska do this last year, again, to try and put a Band-Aid on the offensive line.
Sort of. I mean, so there are some statistics here based off of, their play calling situations right now. They ran 49.24% were running plays, which was 86th most in the country. Then, of course, that means 50.76% were pass plays, which was the 46th most in the country. So
pretty balanced.
Very balanced, which is interesting. The biggest difference between the current Nebraska Mark Whipple philosophy and what South Carolina likes to do is, or I guess what Satterfield likes to do, is get the ball into the flats. I mean, 22.5% of their plays were screens, and that was 20% in 2021, versus like what Nebraska was this year, which was only 6.9% of screens. Nice. Were this year were screens, which is, I mean, a massive difference. And last year for South Carolina, 60% of their pass plays were passing attempts were under 10 yards downfield. And, for Nebraska, it was only 49%. So there are some differences in philosophy and how they approach downfield passing and how they want to establish throws around the line of scrimmage. And Satterfield seems much more content with drawing up plays like that behind the line of scrimmage, or screen plays, little shuttle passes and things like that to get a little bit more creative around the line of scrimmage, which was something that we talked about with Whipple this year in his unwillingness to draw up any type of blitzbuster types of plays like screens and things like that to alleviate some of that pressure. And so I'm honestly pretty happy to hear that.
Yeah, again, that's just another way that we had kind of been talking about, trying to, if you have a bad offensive line, if getting the ball out quickly can definitely help you. And they definitely were doing some more of that, which, yeah, again, we had talked about that would have definitely probably helped Nebraska this year in the offensive play calling. And yeah, it is nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, last year they were ranked 113th by PFF in pass blocking grades and 80th in run blocking. And then this year they were 47th in pass blocking, but 110th in run blocking. So that is pretty tough. I think, it makes sense that either way, you got to find ways to minimize that. I mean, they had some decent stats this year, though. They were 18th in yards per pass, 28th in points per play. And so, that's respectable.
There was a really night and day difference, too. And with pass blocking, you definitely saw the difference.
Yeah.
And this year, and especially the last 2 games, they looked really good as an offensive line. In the pass pro, not so much. And still the run blocking was still
Yeah, exactly. So what I also think is really interesting is kind of the public perception of Satterfield from the South Carolina fans, because it did seem like a lot of them wanted him to be fired. And obviously, like 3 weeks ago, before the Tennessee game and the Clemson game, it seemed like universal expectation that he was going to get fired after the season. And then they go on to put up insane points against Tennessee and Clemson. And then suddenly it's like, okay, well, I guess he's great. And so I don't know. I have some mixed emotions about the hire overall, but it seems like a type of guy that will fit well with what Matt Rhule wants to do.
Trev said it yesterday, like complimentary football wants to be our identity. And if the percentages there of run to pass, like that definitely screams complimentary football. So it definitely seems that they have a very similar philosophy and identity of what they want to do.
I think he'll do well with Rhule in the sense that he wants to create a playbook for the type of players they have. But which is interesting for me because at least from what I saw, it seemed like he was doing that because like in 2021, they didn't have a good quarterback. And so I thought the plays were a lot more creative with running the Wildcat and finding ways to creatively run the ball. Where this year, because they have Spencer Rattler and a more established quarterback, they were, I think, more willing to trust his arm and take shots and do those things. So overall, I was fairly happy with the play design. They had a very unique set of formations, like a lot of really tight formations with like a lot of tight ends. And I liked the play design overall from South Carolina.
I did like the difficult throws that they were drawing up Spencer Rattler to throw a lot of stuff to the sidelines, 20 plus yards downfield. Again, stuff that only a really good quarterback can throw.
So, I mean, overall, like, do you feel like it's like where are you at with it? Grand slam, average? Like, what's your grade here?
Average. I mean, again, it's just kind of expected of like, you're going to hire your own guys. And
so it's kind of like give it a few years, see what happens. And if it's not there, then you find someone new. It's like,
yeah, I mean, obviously, like if other people, I mean, a lot of fans want people fired a lot of the times anyway. But yeah, again, I'd like to see him go out and get some of these other guys. Some of the rumors are kind of fun too.
I mean, so as for some of the other like rumors that definitely are not confirmed by any means yet, where are we at with defensive coordinators here? Because right now we don't have any official names. The guy that a lot of people thought originally when we hired Matt Rhule was Phil Snow, because he's been with Rhule forever. Literally, Temple, Baylor, Panthers, like all the way through, except he's now in his late 60s. And so people are wondering whether or not he wants to still coach. If it's not Phil Snow, then where are you at?
One potential DC is Jeff Collins, who worked with Rhule back from 2002 to 2005 at Western Carolina. And he was most recently the Georgia Tech head coach and was fired earlier this season. And so with their past history, and again, he has some head coaching experience, that's another possible name if Snow ends up leaving and staying retired from football. It's
interesting. There haven't been that many other big rumors for defensive coordinator right now, so I'm wondering if Rhule is still trying to figure that out too. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, and probably we'll get more names over the next few days or at least the week for defensive coordinator. So I mean, at this point, there aren't that many expectations. Do either of those guys get you excited, or? I mean, the only other name that's been floating around would be Jim Leonhard from Wisconsin.
That's definitely, I think, a Husker wish list guy, but I mean, I'd definitely be very excited. I've also heard Georgia as one of their co-defensive coordinators has also been a whisper. So, those two would be definitely, I think, more exciting than Jeff Collins. But I'd be down. And then another whisper for defensive line coach instead of Knighton has been Elijah Robinson from Texas A&M. He gets paid over $867,000 a year. He was actually the top recruiter of the year last year for Texas A&M in the country, and he did work with Rhule as well. That would be a great get, but it kind of seems unlikely, but it's definitely worth mentioning and would be a definite great hire for Nebraska and for recruiting if that were the case.
So the last thing here, I guess we talk about Mickey Joseph. We don't know yet. I mean, in the press conference, when it comes to Mickey, he was asked about it and he said, we need to talk more. And so we got nothing from Rhule about it. There's rumors that Mickey wants more money. It's like $1.5 million or something like that, which would obviously make him a very highly paid positional coach in college football.
Hey, let me just say, Scott Frost got paid like $7 million a year. Scott Frost got $7 million a year to win like 3 games. And, Mickey was able to do that and beat Iowa. So, $1.5 million is a steal in my opinion.
There you go.
Getting them at a discount.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be interesting. I think both of us want Mickey to come back, and we want him to get paid. Yes. So ideally whatever it takes to bring him in as a wide receivers coach and potentially an assistant offensive coordinator, an assistant head coach or something like that as a side gig there. So, I mean, where are you at? What would you give the odds of Mickey being back at this point?
It feels less and less likely, especially from the press conference. I feel like you would announce that already. Rhule said, I've been on the other position where I've been let go as a coach.
Yeah.
And that whole phraseology just made me feel like he's not bringing him back.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Maybe that's reading into it, but just from the way he was saying things, he said I got to talk to our players, more than those past coaches.
He did kind of,
It definitely sounds like Mickey was in the past to Rhule, not so much in the future.
I don't know. I think it's still pretty likely. I think it just comes down to contract negotiations and where their thoughts are. I'd give it still an 80% chance.
Wow, 80. I was gonna say like 35.
Oh,
so geez. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I guess we'll have to see.
But I really hope it's 80, and I hope it's 100, and I hope he gets paid, and then we keep him.
So,
because man. What a cool guy.
100%. So at this point, we don't have any other like full-blown names, but we'll definitely put out another video here soon once we get more rumors about defensive coordinator and some of the more of these defensive assistants positions and overall. So drop your comments down below. Other coaches that you would love to see at Nebraska. We want to see the names down below so we can give them a go and research them and everything else. And so we'll have some more videos coming out here very soon. Drop your comments down below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload and hit the subscribe button. Why wouldn't you? But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This is Backseat Sports, and we'll see you next time. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.